So Sirius and Lupin prepare to kill Pettigrew, and this is where he starts pleading with everyone. In the movie, we only see him plead with Harry here, with his pleas to Ron and Hermione being moved outside later.
Ron, haven't I been a good friend, a good pet? You won't let them give me to the Dementors, will you? I was your rat. Oh, sweet girl, clever girl. Surely you won't let them.
So of course, Harry prevents Sirius and Lupin from killing Pettigrew, knowing his dad wouldn't have wanted it. After this, the movie cuts right to them walking through the tunnel, but in the book, we see them do a few things before they leave. First of all, Lupin ties up Pettigrew, then he conjures bandages on Ron's broken leg. Sirius also warns Pettigrew that they'll kill him if he tries to transform. Lupin uses the Mobile Corpus spell to levitate the unconscious Snape through the tunnel with them, whereas they just seem to leave him there in the movie. Finally, Lupin conjures manacles, chaining himself and Ron to Pettigrew. Sirius suggests to Harry that once they turn Pettigrew in, Harry could come live with him. In the book, this conversation takes place on their way back through the tunnel, but in the movie, it takes place outside the tunnel looking at Hogwarts. I actually like that better, to be honest. I only wish they had shown the end of the conversation, where Harry enthusiastically agrees to go live with him, and Sirius's reaction to that. Sirius's gaunt face broke into the first true smile Harry had seen upon it. The difference it made was startling, as though a person 10 years younger was shining through the starved mask. For the first time, he was recognizable as the man who had laughed at Harry's parents' wedding. I will say, I do like how Sirius in the movie says that Harry did a noble thing sparing Pettigrew. This was actually a Dumbledore line in the book, but I honestly really like it coming from Sirius. I also love this little moment where Ron is trying to win Hermione's sympathy.
Ow, that looks really painful.
So painful. They might chop it.
Sure, Madame Pomfrey will fix it in a heartbeat.
It's too late. It's ruined. It'll have to be chopped off.
The moon then comes up and Lupin transforms into a wolf. Now, I love the effect of Lupin turning into the wolf. The design of the wolf itself, not so much. Walking on 2 legs I'm fine with, but where is all its hair? Also, Sirius trying to appeal to Lupin's true nature? He of all people should know that's no good. Pettigrew grabs Lupin's dropped wand, and in the movie, Harry immediately disarms him. But in the book, he uses it to knock out both Ron and Crookshanks before Harry is able to do so. Pettigrew then transforms and escapes, and for some reason the movie has him leave his clothes behind. Now, I'm not sure how people generally feel about this, but a change I love here is Snape, who in the book is unconscious throughout this whole scene, placing himself between the students and the wolf. I honestly would have loved this even more if they had kept his scene in the shack how it was in the book. Seeing the far more vindictive Snape from the books do this, I think would have made it even better, and would not have been out of character. As horrible as he can be to the students, when the chips are down, his first instinct is to protect them. So Lupin and Sirius fight in animal form. In the movie, Lupin appears to get the upper hand until Harry arrives to help Sirius. Lupin is then distracted from Harry by a distant howl, which, as we learn later, is actually future Hermione. In the book, that doesn't happen. Sirius actually wounds Lupin bad enough to send him running off into the forest, and then he goes off in search of Pettigrew. In both cases, Sirius ends up at the lake surrounded by Dementors and Harry finds him, though in the book Hermione is with him as well. Harry uses the thought that he's going to go live with Sirius to conjure some weak Patronuses, but they don't work too well. In the book we actually see a Dementor lower its hood here, something they only do to perform the Dementor's kiss. Where there should have been eyes, there was only thin, grey, scabbed skin stretched blankly over empty sockets. But there was a mouth, a gaping, shapeless hole sucking the air with the sound of a death rattle. Then, of course, the Dementors are driven away by a Patronus cast, unbeknownst to him, by Harry's future self. In the movie, it's not made very clear, but the stag actually is the Patronus fully formed. In the book, it actually charges the Dementors itself, its aura driving them away. Harry passes out and wakes up in the hospital wing. In the movie, Harry immediately says,
I saw my dad.
He seems to believe and accept it a little too quickly. It takes him a lot longer in the book. Also, there's actually a good amount cut from this scene. In the book, Harry wakes up to hear Snape and Fudge's voices. Snape is telling Fudge about how he saved Harry, Ron, and Hermione and captured Sirius Black. He thinks Black had bewitched the trio, which was why they had attacked him, but still suggests they should be punished for going out of bounds at night. Harry and Hermione try to tell Fudge that Sirius is innocent, but because of what Snape told him, he thinks they're just confused. Dumbledore then enters and says that he's just been speaking with Sirius, who told him the whole story. Snape tries to convince Dumbledore that he's lying and silences Harry and Hermione, who he still thinks are bewitched, when they try to confirm the story. Dumbledore, however, makes them all leave so he can talk to Harry and Hermione on his own. I do understand why the filmmakers trimmed this scene down, as it's not really necessary in the long run, though I will say Snape's reaction later after Sirius has escaped is just priceless, and it would have been amazing to see Alan Rickman play it. So Harry and Hermione try to convince Dumbledore that Black is telling the truth, but Dumbledore already believes it. I like this moment better in the book because he's already heard the full story from Sirius, so you just know he's got things planned out already, and he explains a bit better about why they won't be able to convince the Ministry to overturn Sirius's execution. So it's made pretty clear that they have no choice now except to break Sirius out using time travel. In the movie, Dumbledore actually seems surprised by what they're telling him and just instantly believes them. Also, what is this?
True is meaningless to those who've forgotten how to listen.
What the heck, Dumbledore? That's just mean. I do like how the movie had Ron actually conscious during this scene, but then of course they had Hermione interrupt his explanation of things.
He was my brother Percy's rat, but then they gave him an owl.
Point is, we know the truth.
So Harry and Hermione go back in time. By the way, what was Harry trying to do here when he reached for the time turner? Oh well. In the movie, Harry and Hermione see themselves confronting Malfoy, something that, again, happened at a completely different part in the book. In the book, they hide in a broom closet and hear themselves run past. Before they leave the broom closet, Hermione tells Harry all about the time turner, and they work out the entire plan of saving Buckbeak and flying him up to where Sirius is locked up, so they can escape together. Now, the movie actually extended this whole time travel sequence. Harry and Hermione aren't chased by Lupin in the book, and we see them interacting with the past a lot more times. In the book, the only time they directly involve themselves with the events of the past is when Harry conjures the Patronus to send the Dementors away. Honestly, I'm not sure which version I prefer. I like them both. I enjoyed the moments the movie added of them interacting with the past, like throwing those rocks into Hagrid's hut to get their past selves' attention, and Hermione thinking she saw her future self. In fact, she probably knew exactly what it was, just couldn't say anything. The only one I'm kind of iffy on is Hermione imitating a howl to distract werewolf Lupin. Like, really? He fell for such an obviously fake howl? I will also note that each of these instances involve Hermione saving Harry. Again, Steve Klove's favorite character. The book actually has a moment where Harry realizes before Hermione does that they're going to have to move before Lupin runs right at them. With that said, I do like the extra parts added, with Lupin chasing them and Buckbeak ultimately driving him off. As for the moment where Harry conjures the Patronus, I think it's done extremely well. The visuals and the music, combined with just the emotional weight of the moment, probably make it one of the best scenes in all the films. I do kind of wish they had shown the actual stag Patronus running down the Dementors, though. Also, Harry realizes here that a stag was the animal James could turn into, hence why he was called Prongs. So in a way, as Dumbledore says later, Harry did see his father. I will also say that I feel like not having had all of those previous interactions with the past that the movie had makes this moment a bit more surprising and maybe hit harder. But then again, that music and those visuals. Like I said, both versions have their pros and cons, and I'm not sure which one I prefer overall. A couple specific things I'd like to note during this whole sequence. First of all, Harry comes across a bit more impulsive in the movie. Like, we see him get up to go after Pettigrew, not even thinking of the consequences, and is only stopped by Hermione holding him back. In the book, he simply suggests the idea to Hermione rather than act on it instantly. Also, when they're watching the Whomping Willow in the book, Harry considers running out to grab the invisibility cloak before Snape can get it, which Hermione talks him out of again. And good thing she did, because a happily drunk Hagrid walks by at that moment, meaning Harry would have revealed themselves and Buckbeak if he had done that. Speaking of Hagrid, I do wish the movie had shown more of his joy over Buckbeak escaping. In the book, he's sobbing with relief. To the movie's credit, though, I do love Dumbledore's deliberate attempts to stall things in Hagrid's hut. I think they're funnier than the ones in the book.
Minister, I really think I should sign as well.
Yes, very well. Well, that it would be a good thing. Your name only.
It's a very long name. Professor Dibbit had that ling planted when he was headmaster.
Oh, yes, indeed, indeed.
And all the strawberries, you see.
Also, I just love this line from Harry.
This is not normal.
Daniel Radcliffe delivered that perfectly. So Harry and Hermione break Sirius free. In the book, Hermione uses Alohomora, but in the movie, she uses... I honestly prefer Sirius's goodbye scene in the movie. In the book, Harry and Hermione push him to leave right away. And yeah, I get time is of the essence, but I don't care. I love this scene in the movie. The only thing I do kind of wish they had kept is Sirius asking worriedly after Ron. But I love the goodbye between Harry and Sirius here. In fact, they actually gave Sirius another line here that Dumbledore had in the book.
The ones that love us never really leave us.
Again, I kind of like that line better coming from Sirius, to be honest. That and just this scene in general really makes Sirius feel like more of a father figure to Harry. After Sirius is gone, Harry and Hermione run back to the hospital wing. In the book, when they tell Dumbledore they've done it, he congratulates them. I have to say, though, I love his response in the movie.
Well?
He's free. We did it.
Did what? Good night.
Harry and Hermione return to their beds. At this point in the book, Ron is still unconscious and the scene doesn't end just yet. A few minutes pass, and then a furious Snape bursts in, followed by Fudge and Dumbledore. Snape is convinced Harry had something to do with Black's escape, and proceeds to scream at him, in capital letters, demanding answers. Fudge tries to reason with him that Harry couldn't possibly have done it because he's been in the hospital this whole time, but Snape, against all evidence, stubbornly and furiously insists on accusing Harry. The really aggravating part is, he's right. Finally, after Dumbledore talks him down, Snape storms out of the room. Dumbledore then asks Fudge if the Dementors will be removed from Hogwarts now, which Fudge agrees to now that they've tried to kiss an innocent boy. After the two of them leave, Ron then comes to and asks what happened with Sirius and Lupin. They actually tell him in the book, unlike in the movie where, Ron being the butt of every joke, they laughingly keep him in the dark.
What's he talking about, Harry?
I know. Honestly, Ron, how can somebody be in two places at once?
In fact, in the book, that line is actually said by Dumbledore to Snape while he's raging.
Well, there you have it, Severus. Unless you were suggesting that Harry and Hermione are able to be in two places at once, I'm afraid I don't see any point in troubling them further.
The next thing we see in the movie is Harry visiting Lupin in his office and finding out he's resigned. In the book, we first see the trio hanging out by the lake, and Hagrid shows up and tells them Buckbeak escaped. They pretend to be shocked, of course. Hagrid then tells them that Lupin is resigning, which is what prompts Harry to run to his office. I do like the final conversation between Harry and Lupin in the movie, though there are a couple details I think should have been left in. First, Snape was the one who revealed to everyone that Lupin is a werewolf. He was so pissed that Sirius escaped and that Lupin wasn't convicted that he just snapped and told everyone. In the movie, Lupin just says,
"It seems that somebody let slip the nature of my condition."
I'm not sure why they were so vague about this, but it's yet another case of the movie softening Snape's character. Lupin also asks Harry about the Patronus he conjured and confirms that James turned into a stag, and that's why they called him Prongs. Now, with that said, I do like the things they added to this conversation in the movie. For example, Lupin, like Sirius, was given a line that was spoken by Dumbledore in the book. And like those Sirius lines, I actually like it better coming from Lupin.
None of it made any difference. Pettigrew escaped.
Didn't make any difference. Harry, it made all the difference in the world. You helped uncover the truth. You saved an innocent man from a terrible fate. It made a great deal of difference.
Also, I love how he ends the conversation by saying,
"Mischief managed."
In the book, Dumbledore arrives to see Lupin off, and after Lupin has left, Dumbledore talks with Harry. This was completely cut from the movie, largely I think because a lot of what Dumbledore says here, as I mentioned, was said by Sirius and Lupin in the movie. And like I said, I kind of like that better. I feel like this is the one book/movie where we really didn't need a conversation with Dumbledore at the end. Lupin is the teacher Harry really developed a bond with this year, and Sirius is the new father figure he discovered. So having them be the ones to give advice and wisdom to Harry, I feel works better. Dumbledore will still have plenty of chances to do so in future books and movies. Now, with that said, there are two things Harry and Dumbledore talk about here that I wish had made it into the movie. The first is Professor Trelawney's prediction. Dumbledore confirms that this prediction was in fact genuine, and that it was the second real prediction Trelawney has made, adding a new mystery for a couple books about what her first one was. Also, I just love the way he says this.
Who would have thought it? That brings her total of real predictions up to 2. I should offer her a pay rise.
The second thing I feel they should have kept is what Dumbledore tells Harry about Pettigrew. He reminds Harry that Pettigrew now owes Harry his life, and that James would have saved him as well. This is something I feel should have been given to Lupin or Sirius to say in the movie. Although, if I'm being honest, given how it pays off, or doesn't really, in Deathly Hallows, I kind of wonder if this whole plotline of Pettigrew owing his life to Harry was something Rowling changed her mind about over the course of the books, since the conclusion to it I feel was kind of disappointing. Oh well, we're not talking about Deathly Hallows yet. The movie, of course, ends with Harry receiving the firebolt, which has already happened in the book. This feels like a bit of a weird way to end the movie, though. I like the way the book ends better. We learn that Harry passed all of his exams, Dumbledore likely stepped in to stop Snape failing Harry on purpose, and that Gryffindor won the House Cup again. A few things happen on the train ride home. Hermione tells Harry and Ron that she dropped Muggle studies, which combined with her dropping divination means she now has a normal schedule. All those subjects combined with the time traveling were just too much, even for her, so she returned the time turner to McGonagall. So yeah, Hermione doesn't have the time turner anymore. It would have been nice if the movie had mentioned this. Ron also tells Harry that the Quidditch World Cup is this summer and invites him to come stay at his house, foreshadowing the next book. Finally, a tiny owl arrives at their compartment on the train with a letter for Harry from Sirius. The letter tells him that he and Buckbeak are in hiding, and that he was the one who sent Harry the firebolt, and apologizes for the scare he gave him at Magnolia Crescent. He just wanted to get a good look at him before making off for Hogwarts. The letter also encloses a permission form from Sirius for Harry to go to Hogsmeade in future years, and he also says that Ron can keep the owl as a replacement for his rat. This owl, Pigwidgeon as Ron ends up calling it, becomes a mainstay throughout future books. Also, I just love this part. He looked closely at the owl for a moment. Then, to Harry and Ron's great surprise, he held him out for Crookshanks to sniff. What do you reckon? Definitely an owl? After leaving Platform 9 3/4, Harry meets up with the Dursleys and tells them all about his escaped murder convict godfather, who, he says, will be checking in on him from time to time to make sure he's happy, much to their horror. And that's where the book ends. A bit more of a satisfying ending, in my opinion. This is one of the most important entries in the series, and therefore one of the most important adaptations to get right. Unfortunately, omitting the Marauders' history and the portrayal of Ron and Hermione's relationship are both significant marks against it in my opinion. But still, this is a really good movie. They nailed the story and character arcs from the book, and even made changes that I think improved parts of it. And Alfonso Cuarón's style and the atmosphere he gave it were really effective as well. Next up, Goblet of Fire. Let's see if the adaptation of that book holds up as well as this one. It doesn't.